Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and welcome to the second episode of Should Have Been Goosebumps, the series where we look at other kids' horror television shows and pick episodes that feel more like the Goosebumps IP than the IPs they're actually in. In this episode, we'll be looking at a show that came from the early 2000s that's also associated with the R.L. Stine brand. And that show is The Nightmare Room. And its only season, we are looking at the second episode, which is called Scareful, What You Wish For. Now, the following video will contain spoilers. I suggest if you have not seen the episode before, either click off or come back to the video after you have seen the episode. If you are curious to watch this, I will provide a link down in the description below for you to click on it and go view it at your own leisure. Thank you. 13-year-old Dylan and his friend Ryan are cleaning out Dylan's room of his old toys and other knickknacks so Dylan can move to his sister's old room. After gathering a box of his childhood possessions, Dylan and his friend Ryan head up to the attic to put them away. Meanwhile, Dylan's mother is watching a tape recording of Dylan's 6th birthday party. Dylan is told by his mother to place his old toys in the alcove of the attic. As Dylan takes his old box of toys to put them away, an old toy falls out of the box in an unnatural way. Before Dylan can do anything, his friend asks if they can leave to hang out somewhere else. The next day, Dylan is at his middle school discussing with his friends about the upcoming 8th grade graduation party. That is when Dylan bumps into a young kid with blonde hair wearing a blue striped shirt and overalls. The kid asks Dylan if he remembered him and says that Dylan is his best friend forever. Confused, Dylan tells the kid he must be mistaken, but the kid reminds him his name is Buddy and that he likes to play. Dylan says he's too old to play with Buddy and leaves Buddy by himself as he and his friends head to class. While at lunch, Dylan and his friends are chatting when his friend Ryan has an allergic reaction to something in his lunch. Dylan talks with his other friend Beth about Ryan's missing backpack and is confronted by Buddy again. Buddy tells Dylan that he is his best friend, but Dylan says Ryan is his best friend and gets increasingly agitated towards Buddy. Dylan notices the food Ryan was allergic to on Buddy's overalls, and as his friend comes to chat, Buddy disappears. Agitated, Dylan storms home and heads up to his attic to his box of toys. He pulls out a doll that looks like Buddy, with the same food on his overalls that Buddy did at school. Dylan realizes that Buddy must be the doll from his childhood. Frantic, Dylan tells his mother about what he has been experiencing. Dylan tells his mom about how insane it must sound, but his mother tells him it is probably stress to everything that's going on in his life. Dylan tries to calm down and head to school to help his friend Beth with putting up decorations for graduation. As Dylan catches Beth up to speed about Buddy, Beth collapses from a ladder she was on. Dylan notices Buddy off to the distance and chases him, but Buddy disappears. Dylan storms home to find the doll on his bed. In an emotional rage, Dylan tells Buddy he was once his best friend, but wasn't anymore, and proceeded to slam the doll until its head falls off. Sometime later, Dylan's mother takes Dylan to his school counselor, where he tries to convince him he's telling the truth. After leaving the office for water, he sees a disfigured Buddy and freaks out. He grabs for Buddy and pulls a disfigured doll instead. Later on, Dylan sulks in his bed while the 8th grade graduation party commences downstairs in his home. Beth, Ryan, and Dylan's mom all gather around to catch the tape of Dylan's 6th birthday party. Meanwhile, Dylan goes to the attic to look for his Buddy doll when disfigured Buddy returns. Dylan tells Buddy he has to move on. Buddy looks upset, but changes back to a doll. Meanwhile, as Dylan's birthday party tape is being played, Dylan's mom and Beth see the Buddy doll in the video. The two watch in horror as the magician says a magical spell on Buddy to make Buddy Dylan's best friend forever. Dylan takes his broken Buddy doll to the attic to say goodbye, but Buddy isn't ready to say goodbye and grabs Dylan towards the box. Dylan's mom and Beth had realized Dylan was telling the truth about Buddy all along and head to Dylan's room, but he wasn't there. Frantic, the two head to the attic to see if Buddy was in the box of Dylan's old toys. The two find Buddy and a new doll that looks identical to Dylan. Dylan's mom and Beth scream in horror as they now understand that Buddy will for sure be Dylan's best friend forever. So, why is Scareful What You Wish For worthy of being considered a Goosebumps story? Well, let's run down some points. The first point I want to bring up is that Dylan, the main protagonist, fits the common age bracket of most Goosebumps characters. Now, in the Goosebumps books, the common age range for protagonists tend to run from the ages of 10 to 13, which places them anywhere from 5th grade to 8th grade. Sometimes 9th grade, if you consider the episodes, where the producers of the Goosebumps television show sometimes increase the age of certain characters to, let's say, the age of 14, like the Werewolf of Fever Swamp. That puts 9th grade into the mix as well. And to back this up, in certain states, some states have 5th grade beginning middle school, and some states have 9th grade ending middle school. It all depends, right? So Dylan fits the common age bracket of the middle grade horror age group that you normally see in Goosebumps, so that's a good mark for it. The second thing I want to bring up is this story feels right out of the mind of R.L. Stine. Now, the Nightmare Room series was written by R.L. Stine, don't get me wrong, but when we're analyzing the episodes, not all of the episodes actually were written by R.L. Stine. This is one of the episodes that were written specifically for the show by a writer outside of R.L. Stine. And for the most part, the writer of this episode captured what would come from R.L. Stine in this story if he was given the layout and had to write a story around it. Dylan feels right at home with the more popular Goosebumps protagonists. He has an emotional acuity. He has good character dynamics with his friends. He's very close with them. He seems kind of popular. He has a close relationship with his mother, and he tries to tell her what's going on with him throughout the story. He doesn't feel closed off. He doesn't feel too mean or anything. So he fits in, like I said, with the more popular Goosebumps protagonists. The setup to the story feels right out of things we've seen already done in Goosebumps, with stories like Night of the Living Dummy, the short story Mr. Teddy, Toy Terror, Batteries Included. You know, the haunted / magical doll tropey type of stories. This fits right in. And when we're talking about Buddy, the villain of the story, this is one of the golden stamps, I can say. R.L. Stine would have nailed this character. And this character feels like it belongs in the lineup of great Goosebumps villains. When you analyze Buddy and what he does and how mind-gamey he is and how jealous he can be, and the lengths he's willing to go to in the story are kind of dark. But then again, it all fits together, right? Some of the characters feel kind of unorthodox for Goosebumps. What I mean by that is you don't see this often, but you have a mom that genuinely cares about her son and is not written to be a complete idiot. You have friends who are supportive and believe their friend when they're going through something extraordinary, and the friends actually experience it with Dylan. So if this was a Goosebumps book, this would definitely be a standout. And I think it would be one of the more revered ones, but I'm not just saying that we should put it in there because it would be good. I'm saying it should be in there because it already fits. You know what I mean? The next point I want to bring up is the tone and the atmosphere. The tone of the story, it doesn't get too dark. And some of the other Goosebumps books in the past do get really dark. And I think darker than this, with its like imagery, body horror, situational horror type of thing. Here, a lot of the horror is played up from Dylan getting progressively unhinged, having to deal with his past coming back to haunt him. Right? Buddy is served as a symbol in the story to kind of tie in the past coming back to haunt you, or having to deal with your past before you can move on. Symbology and symbolism and allegorical things, subtext, you name it. Stuff that provide deeper meaning stories do exist in Goosebumps, but it's not common. But here, I think that the way it envelops would happen in Goosebumps. And I've seen it countless times in the stories that do offer it. But, for him trying to graduate 8th grade, and him moving to a different room in his house, kind of upgrading his life, moving on to another stage of his life, Buddy's serving as that one thing holding him back to his past is fine enough. And that's basically all the story comes to offer about Buddy and his relationship with Dylan throughout the story, is that symbolism is there. And normally Goosebumps doesn't go that heavy or that deep with symbolism, and for that, it works. Now, the atmosphere of the story feels small scale. It feels realistic, like some grounded Goosebumps books, with, some questionable things with like the magic involved. But, if this was a Goosebumps book, this would be one of the more realistic, atmosphered feeling books. But they do exist, and it fits pretty much right in with those. And the last thing I want to bring up is the whole finished product from start to finish. This plays out like a Goosebumps book. And now it also plays out like a Nightmare Room book, because the Nightmare Room is basically just a soft continuation of Goosebumps. But I dare say, if we're looking at the Nightmare Room show, and you look at those episodes that this would have been a part of, this one, if you took out the Nightmare Room label on it, and you put Goosebumps on it and just threw it into the lineup of the old show, nobody would notice. Minus that the cameras look a little bit newer. The other episodes of the show are clearly targeting a slightly older audience than the Goosebumps TV show was, but that's not to say that the finished product here couldn't fit in with Nightmare Room, because it technically does, but I'd say that it has more of a Goosebumps aura to it than a Nightmare Room aura. And if you've seen the episode, you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, that was Scareful What You Wish For. The next episode, we're going to be looking at The Haunting Hour, and for a few episodes after that as well. So stay tuned for that, and hope everybody has a great day.